Hi, and thank you for joining. My name is Dennis O'Donovan with ProfitCom, and we are here with Sara Blengeri from Coro. Sarah's going to talk with us today about who Coro is and how they help businesses with security and compliance. Sara, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having Coro join you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to
it. So what we're going to cover today is understanding really what's happening inside cybersecurity and what the security risks are. We also want to make sure and touch on the key security areas for you to consider for your business. And what do some of these cybersecurity compliance terms even mean? There's a lot of acronyms out there, so we want to kind of cut through the red tape and explain what those mean and what you can do as a business to prepare for compliance best practices, how we can help at Coro, and how ProfitCom can help as well. So Dennis, I want to throw a little trivia out at you. What do you think is the largest business segment that was hacked last year in 2022?
I'm going to say enterprise.
Wrong. SMBs, small, medium-sized businesses. Can you believe it?
Well, so tell me why. That's interesting.
Well, it is really surprising to a lot of people, actually, because most people think that the large enterprises are the ones getting hacked the most often because that's what people see on the news. Big household names that you're familiar with, like Uber or Target, and there's so many more, that's what you remember because those are making the headlines. Those are hitting the news wires when they get hacked because it affects a lot of people. But in terms of companies, 85% of the hacks and ransoms that are happening out there with these really bad people and hackers are hitting the SMBs, 85%, which is crazy. And I think
that's fascinating.
I know. It's surprising. It's because most of these companies, you don't see them on the news. You're not familiar that these are happening every single day. The SMBs just are not prepared. Small, medium-sized businesses, they're just not prepared. They don't think they're going to get hacked, but they are getting hacked. And they're, their sister companies and other people they do business with in the similar size are unfortunately getting a lot of phishing emails, and people are clicking on those links. They're getting malware, they're getting ransomware attacks, and it's taking them out of business. And I think not only are they not prepared because they don't think that hackers care about their small businesses, but they don't have the right tools in place and the right people to monitor and manage the tools that are out there to protect their businesses. So they really need to take it.
Is it because they're the low-hanging fruit for the bad guys?
Yeah. And the bad guys know. They're aware. It's actually become an as-a-service, hacking as a service on the dark web, which is so weird and so bad. These people are terrible people, but it's happening. And the SMB business owners need to take this seriously, because if they don't, not only will it be a financial concern because they're going to pay out to get their data back. So it's a financial risk, but it's also a reputational risk that they're taking if they don't protect their business.
That totally makes sense.
So a lot of stats on this slide, but it's really more to share with the community what's happening outside, out there in the cybersecurity. I already mentioned 85% of the data breaches are striking the small, medium-sized businesses. And if they get hit, 60% of them in 6 months have to go out of business. They shut down because, again, not just the financial aspect of what happens to their business and what they have to pay out to get their data back. It's also the reputational damage that happens as a side effect. And then people aren't wanting to do business with them anymore because they don't trust that they have their data protected. So it's pretty crazy stuff, and it's really sad. Yeah, go ahead, Dennis. Sorry.
No, I was just, I'm looking at the bottom right. Is that number right? $120,000 is the average small business is what they lose per incident.
Yeah, it's crazy. Wow. So in 2021, the average was like 55,000 per breach that a small, medium-sized business would have to pay for that breach. Now and then the new stat as of last year was 120,000. And then as of this year, it actually went up. Like it's in by zeros, like it's now in the millions of dollars per breach.
Wow. And it's not just the cost of like the bit, the money that you actually pay to the bad guys, but it's the cost of recovering and building everything back and getting your data back and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Every week we're talking to companies that unfortunately have been hacked several times already. And usually statistically, if you've been hacked once, your information's on the dark web, you're going to get hacked again. So it's really important that companies take this seriously, whether you're an SMB or even an enterprise customer, no matter the size, they need to take cybersecurity seriously, because these bad guys are getting not only smarter, but it's become a business and they're selling this information again on the dark web, and they just need to take their businesses seriously and protect them. The cost of protecting your business is far less than if you don't.
Great point.
So some key areas that I would like to promote to companies to protect their businesses is the perimeter security outside of their business. So thinking firewalls and VPNs, making sure that even inside an organization, that they have, that firewall set up to protect, but also, VPN as well for distributed endpoints. Endpoint protection is important for devices and laptops. So that's called EDR, endpoint detection and response. Another area that's important to protect is email protection against malicious emails coming in. Patch management is always important with all the different software that companies have running inside their environment with all their users. That's important to make sure their operating systems are up to par. And then also having that data backup and disaster recovery plan and testing that plan. It's one thing to have all these pieces and parts even implemented inside a business, but then you should test it and make sure it's actually working. Inspect what you expect. IDG. Many people are aware of who IDG is. IDG also suggests that all companies are protecting these 4 major domains, because these are the 4 major areas that companies get compromised. Cloud apps, because most companies, especially during COVID, actually took their businesses and the different areas of their business and their infrastructure to the cloud. So a lot of companies are in Office 365 or they're in Google. They've moved their CRMs to the cloud to company or to solutions like Salesforce. They got to make sure that those cloud apps are taken care of and protected. They also need to make sure that their emails are being protected inside their business against phishing. And then they also need to protect against endpoints and data. So these are the 4 key areas. If anybody's listening to this webinar, these are the 4 key areas that they have to make sure are protected inside their business, because these are the 4 most likely places that these bad guys, these threat vectors, are going to get in. We all know that a lot of this is human intervention, and there needs to be awareness training also, but these are the 4 key areas, unfortunately, that they're getting in. And this is where companies need to make sure that they're protected. What I thought would also be important to share this morning, Dennis, with the folks listening, is there's a lot of acronyms in cybersecurity. There's a lot of acronyms just in business in general, but with regards to cybersecurity, it takes some education and knowing what you need to protect, which is your very, very important sensitive data. Even if you're a small business or an enterprise, your employee data is very, very important that it doesn't get released, as well as your client data. And depending on what type of business you're in and what vertical, there's different compliance components that you got to make sure are checkmarked and protected. If not, it can cost you a lot of money and reputational damage. So some of these acronyms are here on the screen. Many people are aware of these and many people aren't. The HIPAA, so we'll start with the top on the left-hand side. HIPAA is protecting, it's a compliance, regulatory compliance that healthcare organizations need to abide by to protect their patient health records. PCI is protecting credit card processing information. So companies that are taking payments from people or organizations and companies, they need to protect that credit card data information when they're processing credit card transactions. Then on the far right is PII, which is personal identifiable information, such as social security numbers. So there are other organizations that need to not only be PCI compliant, but also PII compliant. Then you have GLBA. This is a regulatory requirement for financial institutions outside of credit card processing, such as banks or credit unions. As an example, those particular organizations have to abide by this requirement to ensure that that data is protected for their financial clients that they do business with. And then another common requirement is obviously with the state and actually with federal and municipalities and local. There's very specific compliance requirements for the states and Fed and the local municipalities, if you will.
We do like our acronyms, don't we?
Oh my gosh. I just thought it'd be helpful to kind of get the
That's great.
terminology and the acronyms out there.
Totally appreciate it because we throw acronyms around like crazy, but it's nice to actually hear what they stand for.
I know it is. It's a bit much, but it's good to get them out there so people are just aware of them if they hear of them. And also to know that they may be in one of these buckets based on the companies that they serve and do business with. And oftentimes, the clients that they do business with will require them to be compliant, even for whatever reason, to make sure that they're protected in doing business together. So
we hear a lot about cyber insurance, right? I've got a lot of people in the insurance industry that I know, and they're talking about how these premiums are just skyrocketing. So what is cyber insurance? Why do companies need it? And what's the demand? Can you shed some light on that?
Sure, absolutely. Loaded questions. But first and foremost, by definition, cybersecurity insurance is a line of coverage designed to mitigate losses from cybersecurity incidents. So the demand is definitely skyrocketing because, again, more and more small and medium-sized businesses are getting hacked. We know for a fact 85% of the breaches that are out there are being hacked by the SMBs. And because there are so many more of those than enterprise accounts, the demand is getting higher and higher and higher for companies to wake up and to get insurance and to be covered. So the demand is definitely increasing by the day. And it's crazy, only a very small percentage have cybersecurity insurance. So they need to definitely take a look, not only at getting the right tools in place that will protect their businesses against those 4 areas we talked about earlier, but they also need to talk with an insurance agent that can help them with being protected for their business in case something still happens and gets through any of the tools that they have in place that they should have tested.
You have to have a proactive approach. You can't be reactive anymore. You have to attack the bad guys. And that's where a kind of a multi-pronged approach really comes into play here.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%. It's a very serious matter that companies definitely need to take seriously for their own business. So what you're seeing here is an eye chart. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it today, but
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, it's a lot of boxes and a lot of check boxes on the far right. But the long short of it is this is an example of what a cybersecurity insurance application may look like coming from a cyber insurance company. If the companies reach out to a cybersecurity insurance representative or company and they get an application, it's going to look a lot like this. And in many cases, there's even more boxes than what's on this screen and on this slide. But there's a lot of pieces and parts that they have to ensure are covered inside their business and protected and tested to even get cybersecurity insurance in case an incident arises. So Coro can help check off a majority of these boxes. So that's the good news.
So, like, instead of a customer having to have a different company to handle email and a different company to handle endpoint detection, and a different company to handle your cloud apps, you guys can do it all in one swoop.
We can. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that makes it easy.
Yeah, we've got a really neat platform that we built from the ground up that consolidates all of those pieces and parts into one software, which I'll tackle here in a little bit. But what I thought would be important, Dennis, today is even to also share what we're seeing out there, what we're seeing with the businesses that we work with, regardless of their size and regardless of what vertical they're in. They're either in one of these three buckets. They're either on the left-hand side, they have no cybersecurity protection whatsoever beyond a firewall, or they're in the middle bucket, which is number 2, where they're protecting something. Maybe they got endpoint protection on their devices. Maybe they got, email protection against phishing and malware. Or number 3, they have a full stack picked out to protect them against all the different places that they could get compromised, especially in those 4 different areas that we talked about earlier. The good news is we can help, and no matter where a client's at in their cybersecurity journey, if they haven't done anything at all and they just need to get started, or maybe they started and they have some things in place, but not everything, or they have a full stack, we can come in and help in any one of those scenarios, which is great.
So, tell
Yeah.
me, like, you were talking about the platform. Now, this is actually what it looks like, right? This is what the platform looks like. This is how easy it is to use. And that's what you're going to show us next, right?
Yes, I'm not going to do a demo today, which I'm happy. My team's always happy to do a demo with you, Dennis, for any client that's interested in seeing what it's about and diving in deeper. And we actually are happy to provide a free trial to try it out if they'd like to inside their environment. But this is what the platform looks like. It's a software that gets installed in less than 2 minutes. It doesn't take 30 days or even 24 hours. It takes a couple of minutes for us to install the software into a company's environment to make sure that they're protected against all these different areas that we talked about today. So we protect against the cloud applications. We protect against abnormal user behavior. We pay attention to that as well inside our software. We pay attention to and protect against, email protection against phishing. We protect on devices and EDR against the endpoints, right? Or on the endpoints on the devices. And then we also protect that most important data, which is the data that they house inside their organization, which is very sensitive data that if it gets leaked, again, they get compromised. So our company built the software and took this consolidated approach to cybersecurity so that we can take care of all these different engines and areas of compromise in one platform. One software requires zero integration and installs in just a few minutes. So it makes it a whole lot easier for an IT person or a company to manage one piece of software as opposed to 5 to 10 pieces of softwares.
Yeah, no, that makes all the sense in the world. And in your opinion, you've seen a lot of security out there. There's a lot of folks out there talking about their security. What makes you guys different?
Immediately off the top of my head, I would say what makes Coro different and unique is a couple of things. Number one, our software is actually built on AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning. So the minute this gets installed into a client's environment, it starts to learn their behavior. They get to learn what's normal for a business. For example, once we get our solution installed, 95% of the tickets that get raised and the threats that come into a company's environment, we resolve automatically on our own through our artificial intelligence and our machine learning. We resolve those tickets in real time and stop the bad actors from compromising a company's environment, which is very important. But also what happens with AI and machine learning is the longer it's installed, the more we learn about that company and the users inside that company. And why that matters is the longer we have that installed and running, the more we can catch without having to even alert that organization or the IT person. And for example, for abnormal user behavior, which is the second box on the left-hand side where it says users, the longer we're running, we'll know if, we may raise a ticket if we see that Dennis logged in from North Korea, as an example. And if we see that, we're going to raise a ticket and say, this isn't normal. Dennis is usually in Michigan. So, we'll raise that ticket and somebody can take a look at that ticket and decide, well, that's weird. Dennis is never in North Korea. Somebody hacked his account or his device. So we will the longer we have AI and machine learning running and Coro running in an environment, we can detect what's normal for Dennis or the users in their environment versus what's not. That was just one example. So that's one of the things that I think is pretty cool about Coro, is that we're AI based and machine learning. I also think it's really cool that we're paying every one of these areas, from cloud apps, abnormal user behavior, email protection, devices and data. It's very comprehensive, but these are all different engines that are running and looking and paying attention to threats that are potentially coming in. So if we don't catch it for some reason at, the device level, we'll catch it in the email if somebody's trying to get in. So we're paying attention to the threat vectors in all these different areas in real time, as opposed to just one point solution looking at each one of these areas. So hopefully that made sense.
Totally. I mean, it's almost like, so you if you look at the different company profiles that you talked a couple slides ago, if you don't have anything, implementing Coro automatically gives you 4 different checkpoints where you can say, hey, we've checked this off. The other thing I would think is that a lot of larger companies are probably paying $10 here, $5 here, $3 here for all these different things. So if you look at the total comprehensive costs, it might be $25, $30 a user, and you're putting everything in one pane of glass, one site, easy to use. That just makes all the sense in the world.
I think so too. I mean, in addition to the software, what I didn't mention is that we also have our own security operations center, which is another acronym. We have our own SOC. So why I mention this is there's a lot of the small, medium-sized businesses, they don't have an IT person full-time on staff to manage even a piece of software like this, even though it's super simple. They can leverage our SOC to manage that for them, so that they are protected 24/7, 365, and they can go to sleep at night knowing that their business is protected. They can focus on their business and they can focus on working with their clients, which is what they should be doing, and let us handle the cybersecurity for them. So Dennis, this is what full coverage looks like with Coro, from the cloud apps, email, devices, abnormal user behavior. This is, we check all the boxes, which is great. I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, so obviously this is a little bit about who we are, and one of the things that we're trying to do with some of these series and some of these conversations is just trying to outline the differences, right? As we talked about earlier, there's a lot of noise in cybersecurity, and so what I want to do is I want to tell people, what are the differentiators, what different companies are doing to do things differently. And I think the thing that you hit on really, really well is that, you supply businesses an easy way to tackle 4 different areas, the things that they use every day: email, cloud apps, database, and your endpoint detection. Like, those are the things that matter every single day. And if you talk to every single company, they do it every day. And you just said, okay, we're going to cover these core things. We're going to make it easy. We're going to make it easy to implement. We're going to make it easy to deploy, and it's going to be cost effective. And in today's world where everything can be very noisy and difficult and challenging, you kind of make it really, really easy. You make a very compelling case to choose Coro as an easy alternative for cybersecurity. So that's what I was hoping to show people today, and I really appreciate you coming in and sharing a little bit about Coro and why you're different with us. So Sarah mentioned it earlier. They do offer a complimentary evaluation, and that's something that you can reach out to me. So reach out to this contact information. I will round up my Coro team and get you a complimentary evaluation, and you can see what Coro can do for your business. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you sharing Coro and the story, and I look forward to future conversations with you.
Thank you, Dennis. I love being here. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.